Hey guys, this is Dr. Mike Wiming. Welcome to another edition of BootstrapMD. This is the podcast for physician entrepreneurs and investors. Anytime I talk about real estate, I always get a lot of popularity in my podcast episodes. But this time we're going to do real estate that you may or may not be familiar with. And today we have an expert who also happens to be a physician who's been really, really successful in being involved in land investing. She's an internal medicine physician turned land investor for the last 3 years. She's done over 100 deals and runs a seven-figure land investing business virtually with a team with systems and processes in place, which provide her time and place freedom to work anywhere. She's the founder of Fast Fire MD. She has a passion to help fellow physicians achieve financial independence quickly through land investing, so that they can live the life they've always dreamed of without compromising their careers or personal life. She loves educating other doctors in the Facebook group Fast Financial Freedom with Land Investing for Physicians. And she also has an 8-week group coaching program for physicians that's coming out soon. So you're going to want to know more about it. I'd like to introduce to the program Dr. Mamta Kumar. Mamta, how are you today?
Hi, Mike. Thank you so much for having me. And thank you so much for a great introduction.
Great. And we met back last year at the Leverage and Growth summit put on by Peter Kim, and we have been talking. And I think you were already involved in land investing, and you just like kind of slowly let that out. And there was like a little bit of buzz, and then soon after, like a little congregation of other doctors came and found out. Tell us more about it. We want to know more about it. Is that accurate, or
That is
have you been
pretty
doing this for quite a time?
Yeah, that's pretty accurate. I've been doing land investing for almost like 3 years, but that was the first time, like in a congregation, group setting, I started to kind of speak about it. I do have like a local group of physicians, which was a branch off of LGA as well. They knew I was investing in land. And they have been tracking my journey all this long, but in a group setting like that, it was the first time where I was kind of open about, hey, this is what I've been doing, and this is what I love doing, and this is how I spend most of my working hours. So yeah, as you're right, people got interested and they were like, what is this? This is very, very new. So I almost kind of came out of my shell at that time for the first time.
Well, I love it. Well, thank you for coming on. And I wanted to have someone who truly is an expert on land investing. So let's first talk about it. You are a physician, but you have a very interesting, from what I understand, a very interesting route on how you got involved in land investing. Tell us all about it.
Yeah, it's an interesting journey. I'm kind of person who always not necessarily wanted to be in medicine but that was the only skill which I had. And I was not looking for a way out of medicine necessarily. But with the life situations, with especially parenting, my own health situation, I was just trying to find the right job in the right setting. And it seemed like in 8 years, I graduated in 2012. And I went to my first job, which was a full-time primary care job. I realized that was just too much for me. I couldn't hold on to that job. Then with the same employer, I switched to urgent care. And then I switched town and I was like, you know what, this is not working either. Then I switched to a nocturnist job where I would be working in the nights and I would be, off in the day every other week. And then I switched to a part-time hospitalist job. But at my last job, I realized this was even before pandemic. I realized that with my life situations and everything, I needed to just probably stay a part-time in medicine. And that's what I saw that I'll always be. But when I realized that my income is going to be slashed to half, our expenses were not cutting down that much. So, and I knew little to almost nothing about, finances. But we had a family friend who was doing some virtual land investing and he had the success with it. So I was like, you know what? Oh, it seems like this works. So why don't I, like when I was working as a part-time hospitalist, I had 3 weeks off at stretch. So that left me with enough time to kind of start venturing into it. And when I started to do that, the model which we do is mostly like a flip. We'll buy cheap or, under market value, and then we'll kind of sell it at retail or a little bit below retail. And the flips were faster and we were able to kind of, make the income. And I realized that I was able to kind of get 6-figure income in a year. Even that year. And that's what my goal was. So I was like, you know what, this is so awesome. I'll just continue to do this to supplement my income. So that's how it started. But in pandemic, because my own health reasons, I went on a medical leave, and that's when I kind of went full in this.
I love that story because, we have many doctors who perhaps want to start their own business, and perhaps, there isn't, their heart is into it. They're looking for different streams of income. In your case, kind of similar to mine, as we have connection is, I also have a son with special needs. He's an adult now, and I wanted to reduce my income. I love medicine, but I didn't love, some of the aspects of medicines, which I've detailed previous times in the past. But you have to do it as a necessity. And you're going to be more involved if, like, hey, we just dropped our income. We got to figure this out. The mortgage isn't going to pay itself. And it sounds like that was a pretty similar situation, which you got involved. Did that make you even more determined to make this work?
Definitely. And knowing that your child is a special need child, they will always need support, or maybe even more. Because when she was born, she was getting all this aids from the government and this and that, all these therapies. But how long are we going to be doing that, right? So at one point I realized that I would need to become more involved, and probably I will be a better suited person to have those skills to take care of her closely. And looking at long term, there was no way I could continue to exchange that time for money. So I was definitely way more motivated and determined than anybody else out there, because the motivation was not just for me to have vacations. It was just a necessity of that kid and the whole family per se. Because when I am available more, definitely the whole family can be way more balanced, and we are able to enjoy a better quality of life. Yeah.
I love it too. And what you're doing too, just like I've always emphasized, guys, is, hey, you can make an income now. You make a really nice income right now, but what do you have to leave for your kids? You need to start being involved in building revenue generating assets. Knock on wood, if anything kind of happens, hey, you've got 100+ properties that is generating income from you, and then somebody can help support your kids. So when you're gone, correct?
Yes. And in fact, this was the reason why I chose this, even though I have founded Integrative Care MD, which is a telemedicine practice. But when it came to exchanging my time, I realized that if I spend my time in the real estate and building the team and system and structures, the income will continue to come long term, and we are building the asset. But if I spend my time on Integrative Care MD, it was one-to-one consult. So I didn't want to kind of go in that route. And finally, this year, I decided to stop that. Like, I'm not doing that at all. That door is just closed for me, because I don't want to go back exchanging the time for money. And this is one of the other questions which I get from a lot of physicians. Like, how did you decide to, like, you were doing integrative medicine, weren't you? Like, how did you decide to pivot? And this is how I decided to pivot, because I was like, I could have grown that, just like you have done, having like hiring other people, let them run it. But again, I really think it's a very different business model compared to the land investing, which I was starting to understand, and it was giving me the result already. So once I knew that this is the end result I'm looking for, then I just chose, it was no brainer to go by land investing real estate rather than integrative medicine or telemedicine route.
As a doctor, I wasn't used to asking for help, especially when it came to subjects outside of medicine. But then I found physiciancoaches.com. In an instant, I found hundreds of experts to help me in all aspects of life. On areas I was afraid to ask: dealing with burnout, starting a side gig, money management, even help with my marriage. And the best part? Nearly all experts are physicians themselves. After reading their profile and a quick chat, I knew I found the right mentor for me. At physiciancoaches.com, help from professional colleagues is just a click away.
Yeah, and I tell anybody who starts a business, the goal is what we call an ELF business. ELF, easy, lucrative, and fun. And it sounds like you definitely hit on this. Before we get into the land investing and how you got that started, when you tell people that you're in real estate, probably the next question is, oh, is it a short-term rental? Is it long-term rental? Are you doing multifamily? So why do you think people don't even think about land? Do you get that question a lot?
I do because, and again, I really think there's a lot of factors about it too. Land has always been a limited resource out there, and land buying and selling for profit is something which has been done forever. But I really think this real estate here, especially in the physician community, I noticed that in past few years, especially around the pandemic and after the pandemic, everybody has been talking about this real estate. And they talk about the tax benefit. Everybody starts to kind of talk about how they can save taxes, and that's why they just go on the route of like, single family duplexes or multifamily because it provides you the tax benefit. Now, the land flip model, which we do, it doesn't provide the tax benefit, but it can just multiply the income. It's like a very good cash generating business. So I too like to just balance even buying and selling of the land with, also creating a portfolio of rentals where I'm able to kind of, save my taxes as well. So, but I really think the land, I don't know, somehow it's just like not many people are talking, or maybe they're not exposed to that either.
So let's get into it. Your first land deal, and to talk about the process. You found a mentor. You said it was a local mentor who was involved.
No,
in
I mean, it
land
was
investing?
mostly a course. It was mostly a course. He directed us to a course, which was a recorded course with no life component whatsoever. So I just kind of followed the course and followed the system. And it taught me to just go ahead, wherever I wanted to choose my market first, then go ahead and collect the data of the landowners, either from a paid website or from the counties. And I believe it didn't even have any much subscriptions. And I reached out to the counties. I mailed out to them that, hey, I'm looking for the vacant land owners. Can you provide me the list? And they were like, yeah, the cost is going to be $30, $50, whatever it is. You pay it to us by the check and we'll mail you a CD or we'll mail you attachment. And that's how I got some initial, stuff. And then I realized that I was like, I don't know if this is going to work or not. I scrubbed the list and printed it off in my own printer at home, turned on a movie, and then stuffed like 100 letters, like a neutral letter. It's like, hey, we're investors and we're interested in, purchasing your lot. Like, would you be interested? You can just give us a call at this number or that, whatever number it was at that time. And I was like, I don't trust this. I'm not going to spend a lot on this. I would just turn on the movie and start stuffing. And I realized that with one movie, I was able to stuff like 100. So I think initially in first batch, we sent out like 250 and I dropped it off in a regular, the mailbox. And then I started to notice I never took a call because that's not my suit. And I was like, you know what? I need my time and I need to have that flexibility. So we had a call center. So call center would collect the calls, take the calls. And then, at that time, there was not much competition. And rather than even calling them back, I would just review the property, come up with the offer price, which made sense at that time, and mail out the offer directly to them. And they would sign it and they'll send it back to us. So that's how the initial process looked like. It was like very simple, with not much expense because I didn't want to spend a lot on creating the system unless I knew this, system worked. And by that, I think in 6 months, we were able to purchase like 10 lots. And within 3 to 4, 5, 6 months, we were able to sell them off as well.
I love it, but we're going to get to some detail on it, if you don't mind. Was your first land deal, was it local to you? Was it in another state?
It was, so it was not a local to me, and I never went in and saw that lot.
You never went?
I never went. And none of these lots I go at all. It's all done virtually. But I used to live in San Antonio, and I live in Austin right now. And when I started this business, I was living in Austin. So I knew the suburbs of Austin and I knew the suburbs of San Antonio. So those were the markets which I chose at that time. And the initial few deals which I got were from suburbs of San Antonio. So I knew that area was kind of growing. I was able to analyze them all virtually. But physically, I had never been to that neighborhood, even when I was in San Antonio. So all the research was done online. I never went in there at all. Ever.
Now, I know that you've got a course coming out, and we're going to talk more about that. But what are some, first off, for the people who have this land currently, what is their inclination to sell it? And is there some type of demographic? Are they old folks? I mean, it sounds like this is all through mail. You're not doing this electronically. That's what it sounds like.
Yeah. So yeah, so there are certain demographics which we kind of hit on. When we were filtering the data before, it was just depending upon, hey, if this county, the size, and the length of ownership, that's what was the criteria of the data. But I realized that with time that most of these people fall into two categories. One of them is like older folks who have adult kids. They don't themselves have plan to build on that lot anymore, and their kids don't want them either. So this lot is basically a liability to them that they are paying the taxes every, year, and they don't have any use to that at all. So those are the first category. And the second one was a little younger folks who inherited this and they have no plans whatsoever, and they would rather have cash in their hand than this land, which seems liability to them. Because if you don't have any plans for the vacant land, if it falls into HOA, then you're paying the HOA, or if there's no HOA, then you still are paying taxes, and it adds up when you just add up the years. So these are the two demographics we see that most of the land seller falls into.
Now, you said you have over, at least in the bio, you said over 100 plus properties. It's probably even more than that. What's on average? Well, let's talk about your first deal. Maybe, talk about, if you don't mind, like how much did you actually make on your first few deals?
Yeah, so initial cutoff I always kept in my mind was that I always wanted to make at least 10K profit per deal. Like, whatever price point we buy, if the difference is not 10K, which comes in my pocket, then probably it's just not worth the effort. I'm sure for a lot of people, it's worth the effort. For me, it was not. So initial few deals when we did, it was barely below 10K. It was around 8K to 10K. Few deals were around 8K margin. And then after that, it was always 10K and above. And slowly we keep on pushing that margin more and more. So our average margin, like last year, average was 27,000 per deal.
Wow, that's great. And on average, I mean, how much is land? I guess that's like asking how long is a string. I mean, what if someone who's coming in, they're looking like, okay, like how much do I need to spend? Is it $500,000? We're thinking about multifamily and things like that. Sounds like it's a lot cheaper than that.
It is definitely a lot cheaper, and you can choose. In fact, when I'm pulling off the data, the acreage which I choose depends on what price range of the property I want to acquire. So for example, when I was starting, I went for very smaller, like cheap lots, which were within the city, like right outside the city. And we were acquiring anywhere around, like the acquisition price was less than 1,000 and the sale price was around 15,000.
Wow.
Yep. That's what our average, like around 20 to 40 deals were in that price range, buying it around 1,000 to less than 1,000 and then selling it around 12 to 15 to 20.
And so do you mentioned with kind of the standby the standards in real estate is you invest in what you know, and you said you invested because you felt that this is an area that's growing. Are there other factors that we should be considering or looking into when determining land properties?
Yeah, definitely you want to find the areas where there is a lot of sale activity going on. Because if you find a dead market where there's nobody selling or nobody's buying, that's a dead market. I would never kind of even pull the data from there. So whenever we're analyzing the market, first criteria is definitely a market which is active. Like we try to see if the sold comps should be almost same or more than for sale lot. So that means that a lot of properties are getting sold and there's less is available, so that when you put your property there, then it will sell faster. And then when we kind of come to the nitty-gritty, when a seller contacts you, I really think there are some characteristics of the lot itself. For example, if there's a restriction on the lots and only you can just build a house in there, then that kind of decreases the desirability of the lot. In my mind, I noticed that unrestricted lots with no restriction goes away pretty fast. No floodplain. I really hate the floodplains because the lots will just kind of get stuck there, and the slopes. But we do most of our marketing in Texas, and most of our deals we have done in Texas, even though we have done deals in other states as well. Texas is pretty much flat. But if you're going to other states, then you have to kind of look at the slope. If there's any slope, that's not good because that increases the buildability cost. And then one other thing is sometimes we also get into what we call is landlocked. That means there is no road access to the lot. It's just surrounded by other vacant lots. Then you kind of fall into some legal issues where you can still get the access to the lot, but it takes more time and effort. So I try to kind of avoid these, few categories for sure.
And on average, what do you try? It sounds like you're doing like a flip for
Yeah.
this. On average, how often do you hold on to these properties?
So last year, I did the whole calculation of like what was the average day hold of the properties which we have, sold. I noticed that the last year the number was 114 days, which was definitely
Wow.
higher than before. So right now in this market, I'm noticing that I'm kind of holding to the property anywhere between 3 to 6 months. And it kind of varies in properties, characteristic, their price point. But I think the price point which I have right now is definitely a little bit higher. So higher price point lots will stay a little longer as well, because you need to kind of wait for that right buyer.
Right. As you know, like in the real estate market in general, we're kind of on the downswing here. Does land also get affected from as it would, conventional housing?
I definitely think there is effect for sure, because everybody is holding on to their money right now. But one thing which goes in favor for the land is like all this purchase and sale is happening without the bank, right? Like
Hmm.
most of the buyers, none of them were, getting financed with the bank either before this. So if we are able to kind of provide a good product, which is the land at the right price and the financing terms, so we are still able to sell the lot in the financing terms if it's at the right price. I've noticed that anything which is less than 50K is still moving pretty good for us. But anything which is kind of a little bit on the higher side, more than 100K, definitely the need and the buyer pool has kind of gone down a little bit. But we are able to move the property with the seller financing, where we act as a bank and we provide them the terms where they can do the down payment and monthly payment. And as long as we are able to work with that, I really think this year that has worked way more than other ways of selling the land.
Yeah, let's delve into that more because seller financing, there's some misconceptions on it. So tell us again how you utilize seller financing to make your deals work.
So mostly we'll purchase all the land cash. So we own them already. But if the price point is a little bit higher, we'll give the option. Whenever we advertise the lot for sale, we'll also go ahead and put in that, hey, we do seller finance as well, and we have flexible terms. Just contact us. And usually, rule of the thumb, we try to kind of get our money back within 2 years. So we do have a little calculation, at what price point we acquired it and what's the lowest down payment we need. And we do our amortization calculator, and then we have the numbers ready. I've noticed that most of the buyers in that case, they are just interested in knowing, I can afford this much down payment and this much is the monthly payment I can afford. Is that something which is going to work with you? And we kind of put the numbers in and kind of see how long the term is going to be. We try to kind of keep the terms less than 10 years. On average, we try to kind of keep it between 5 to 8 years. And then they do the down payment. We have already recovered our money, either with the down payment, if not, then in 2 years. And those monthly payments will just continue to come in for the whole term.
Now, when you sell, are these individualized investors? Are you working with, corporations maybe looking to put something in there? What's
usually, most of the buyers are either the end buyer, or if our lot is unrestricted, then the mobile home companies will do a package deal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. So these are the two buyers, and we don't go into restricted lots where there's a lot of only house builders are the one your exit point. We have not sold any lot for the house builder just because, we kind of go for unrestricted lots. So most of our buyers already either have the use in mind, or in near future, they're like, oh, I want to do this. There will be some investors who we have done some recurrent, business with as well in the same neighborhood. The same investor just keeps on coming back to us, and we'll just provide all the lots to them.
So I'm curious, when you got involved in land investing, it sounds like you went in full, but did you look at other types of real estate investing? I mean, I know that the listeners on there is like, Mamta's not having to deal with phone calls about toilets being plugged up or dealing with trees falling on roofs. Did you look at other types of real estate investing?
I didn't, because I didn't have the money for the down payment, honestly, at that time. I was like, you know what? There's no way I have to. Our first rental came with the land package deal. This seller who had sold us her vacant lot first before, in 6 months, she reached out to us, but she was like, oh, I'll only sell you these 4 vacant lots if you buy this house, and this house is for 110K. I was like, I don't care about the lot, but these lands are way more worth more than that. Like, can we just buy the lots? She was like, no, we need to do the package deal. And this was a suburb of Austin at that time. So I was like, you know what? I love the land so much that, okay, we'll take it. And we took it. And we still have that rental and it cash flows $400 per month. And the same renter who has been there, who's a young guy, he's pretty handy. If something happens, he takes care of it. So we had good experience with this, this rental house. And that's when, to kind of save taxes, we started to buy more houses. But yeah, for me, nothing else came in my mind because I was like, I don't have that kind of money, which is one of the other things which I hear from other physicians or other investors as well. Like, I don't have that kind of money to put a down payment and stuff like that. So I never looked at any others until I realized that, oh, I'm going to be paying taxes on this income. So I need to optimize this.
I love it. So this is a great way for, even someone first starting out, maybe they don't have a lot of, they're beginning of their physician journey. This is a way that they can start out without having to put in, everything, into this. So you mentioned the importance of having a team. You mentioned that, you send out these letters, you're not on the phone, which, to be honest, when I told you before the course, before the call, I looked into some land investing and said, like, I don't want to talk to these people. I'm an introverted guy. I don't know who these folks are, but you have a team that answers it and helps you make deals.
On both sides, on the acquisition and the sales, both sides. They are sometimes we'll have to kind of get on call, but most of the times they are the one who are on the front end. They build a relationship. You can just convey like, hey, this is going to work or this is not going to work. Can you convey it? They'll take care of that. Unless some issue.
What else is involved with your students? Do you also encourage them to build their own team, or is it something that they could do on their own?
I really think the way I look at any business is like, we need to kind of create a lifestyle. Like, we need to have a vision of the life you want to live and how it looks like. If somebody is like, oh, I love talking to the people and I want to do this, then, very well just go ahead and do that. But I always tell them that have the end in the mind. If you want to have more freedom, like for me, time freedom was the key. And that's what I was looking for all the time, so that I can take care of myself. I can take care of my daughter. So for me, I didn't want to spend time and I wanted to use more of my brain power. And I wanted to be more like a business owner rather than the operator, even though when you're starting, you have to do everything. So in our course, I've kind of shared all the resources as well with them to kind of just have this extra help and save the time. Because honestly, initially doing those cut work, like little kind of things, like doing your due diligence and stuff like that, I really think as physicians, if we are not working and we are spending our time doing that, I really think we are not valuing our time enough. So we do need to kind of value that and delegate it. So I do share the resources for some trained virtual assistants as well who have done this before, and so that the task can be delegated.
That's awesome. And we kind of intimated at the beginning that you had some health issues that and the land investing reduced your clinical hours. Are you still working as a physician, or has your income now supplanted your
So this February I was still planning on going to PRN, and I applied for some PRN positions, but when I realized that, I was just not excited at all with the thought of like leaving again at 6:00 and coming back at 7:07 for a hospitalist shift, even if it was going to be a few days a month. It was just like I just couldn't digest that, so I decided to just quit because my income is way replaced already from this. And I love, planning, growing the business. I realized that I like to help other physicians doing this as well. And I also kind of did an exercise where I was just kind of writing down what would I like my, perfect day to look like, ideal day to look like. And I realized that I never wrote down that, hey, I wake up at 5:30, I do this, go to the hospital at 7:00 dot, get my pager, and it doesn't beep. I didn't have a code blue for a whole day. And I saw 5 patients. Like, I never wrote anything about that whatsoever. It was just a regular human day what any other human being would have. And when I did that, I was like, then why am I why am I pushing this medicine to me if I just don't want it? And it seems like at this time, financially, I don't have to. So I kind of just let it go. At one point, I might still go in integrative medicine route, because I really think that changed the way I look at medicine and health. And it has helped me in my own health issues as well. So I might still do that virtually at one point, but not in near future.
Yeah. You can do it because you want to. You don't have to do
because
it.
not for the money part. It would be, yeah, but because of the time freedom, which is so important for me, I had to just let go of that dream. But that's one of my other dreams, not necessarily to make money, but I feel passionate about, but I really think we have 24 hours in a day. I cannot create more hours, and I don't want to work more at this point.
So you've been doing this for the last few years. Where do you see kind of the future in land investing?
I really think, at this point, in fact, for this whole year, our goal has been to keep running, doing these smaller flips with some smaller profit, which can add up. For sure, I love that, but going for the bigger deals. So we are trying to kind of do the bigger deals where we can develop a piece of land. So first in the year, we did one like, multiple six-figure deal. The profit side, multiple six figures. In the second quarter, we got a land which we're developing as an RV park. So for third quarter, in fact, we were just evaluating a property this morning, and on Monday probably we'll have the offer going out for that. So my goal is to do 4 bigger deals, for us, and then educating other physicians and increasing the awareness. Because I really realized that when I started to talk about it, there was quite a bit of interest in the physician community. And in the beta launch, I had 50 physicians who are already kind of reviewing deals, putting the offers out and stuff like that. So I really love that. So probably kind of just doing both.
That's awesome. Do they have syndications, or is that something that you're considering? Or it sounds like you're just doing this on your own. Yeah.
So I have been doing this on my own, but I think at this point we are at like the growth which I want. I really think there will be some syndications. We tried to do a syndication earlier in the year. I was able to raise the fund, but that deal didn't go through. So that's why we are kind of, just evaluating for the bigger deals where we can develop, and probably those would be syndications.
Okay, I love it. I love it. So if someone is interested in land investing, you've got some resources. I know you got a course coming out. Where can they go?
They can go to fastfiremd.com and they can go ahead and sign up for the wait list. There we also have the link for the Facebook group where there's quite a bit of videos which I've done, which explains how this land investing and flipping model works. So those would be the great resources to kind of go to.
Okay, great. And we'll also have a link to the show notes. Mamta, this has been very fascinating. I know there's a lot of people getting a lot of interest in this. Any last minute thoughts before we end the call today?
I really think if anybody who's listening to this, we're kind of always looking for the information, but I really think, it's the action takers who get the results rather than the information gatherers. So if you're listening to it, if this interests you, just pursue this. Because I remember I was not looking for anything. I was not even listening to any podcasts or anything. I was just so focused on the land investing once I knew that it works. And it doesn't have to be land investing. It needs to be whatever it is, but just be very focused. Being focused on one thing gets you the results. And after you get the result in one thing, you can move to the other. But if we try to do 5 things at one point, it's just not going to work. So just kind of put in a focus and energy in one direction.
Thank you again. Thank you for your time, Dr. Mamta Kumar. Land investing, go to her website to find out more. FastFireMD.com is where you can go and learn about a course, sign up for her Facebook group, and just get yourself educated. And if this is the direction you want to go, I highly encourage you to consider getting her a course. Thank you again, Mamta. And thanks as always, and continued success. And just congratulate you on your success and more success to come.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mike, for having me.
And thanks everybody for listening. If you are kind of struggling in a position right now, maybe you don't really have your heart into it, there are different options. I always recommend learning about different ways that you can bring multiple streams of income and keep moving forward.